waking up last night and going, gosh, it's awfully bright out there, but didn't think to look out the window because I thought the 20 centimeters that we got, obviously overnight, was going to happen yesterday during the day.
So here we are.
That's why they call it a forecast and a tendance as opposed to this will actually be it.
That's right. No hydro problems at your end?
Well, no, but I'm crossing my fingers because after the last ice storm, which was in April of 2023, I believe, in the spring, all of us around here, because we are a tree-lined neighborhood with trees that sit over power-wise, urged our city government and hydro to come and trim, but as in everything else, that has not quite happened yet. And I'm actually...
she's into it. Yeah, she's into it a minute and a half in, and she's into municipal politics already. So,
but I'm looking down the street, and there's this beautiful old oak tree, and right now it's kind of doing that over a bunch of cars. I wouldn't be over there right now. And
I'm seeing that too here. Yeah, I'm on the North Shore here, and it's weighing heavily upon us here too. So.
Well, first I woke up and we're just waiting for Dan. I told him I woke up this morning and I started to sort of grumble through my head, and then I heard through the ether the cheer of thousands of school children who are going to have a snow day today.
Yeah. So, but you mentioned Dan. We have a guest today.
Yes, is he there?
He is there, and
I don't see him.
I see him because I admit him to the call here. You and I are recording right now, of course. So,
but I can't hear him.
And no, he'll be on in a second. Maybe we should introduce him a little bit. Dan Laxer is his name. And I was thinking, I'll throw to you in just a second. I haven't seen Dan in many years. He and I worked together at CJAD back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, a long time ago. And he is the original Renaissance man. We'll talk to him about what chapters of his life he's been through in recent years.
Yes.
You know more about him than I do. How long ago did you start working with Dan?
I'd say Dan and I are probably at least 20 years. I met Dan during one of my iterations at CJD because I was in and out of there for about 30 years. And Dan had his own show at the time. He was also the host of the trivia show for some 20-odd years.
Yes.
Dan is also an extraordinary writer. We worked for a while down in the commercial copywriting pool on the first floor when we were bought by Astral and then finally ended up at Bell. And of course, I saw Dan on stage as a stand-up comic. So yes, you are right. He's a Renaissance man and now working as a reporter for the Suburban.
Okay, well, let's let him in here and see what he's got to say for himself. He's a musician too, isn't he?
Yes, he's a blues harpist, very talented blues harmonica player, and that's actually how he met his wife.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
I'll let him tell that
there
story.
he is.
Oh, wait now. This sounds very low. Let me raise. Testing 1, 2. Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you. Yeah, how you doing, Dan?
I'm good. I just need to raise the volume on my computer then. Hold on. Okay, somebody say something.
Something.
Dan, we're actually taping right now. I didn't realize that, so I told him about my rusty.
It doesn't matter. We're already recording. I'll fade him in. I'll do a soft fade.
How's is the light from the window making half of my face look kind of pale and weird?
It's too late for that, Dan. I'm
very
sorry.
good.
Yeah. You and I were past that point now of worrying about lighting.
As you welcomed me in, I heard Era telling you my whole story and stuff.
Well, no, the story would go on. Good night, folks. Okay, bye. The story would go on for hours, of course, and I don't know where to begin, Dan. Let's start from where you are now. You're a columnist at the Suburban, yes?
Well, I should not a columnist. I'm a reporter.
A reporter, okay.
That's right. Yeah. A couple of years ago, actually, I was working with them. I was filling in, reporting on the West Island because my colleague Chelsea St. Pierre had gone on maternity leave. And so Beryl Wiseman, the editor-in-chief, called me out of the blue and said, your name came up more than once. And everybody around the table said, hey, yeah, what a great idea. And so I was with them a couple of years ago reporting on the West Island, and then she came back from mat leave. Women do that. And what was that? And then fast forward a couple of years later, the Beryl and of course Oliver Sutton, who's the assistant publisher and manager, said, "Man, we would just love to have you back as soon as anything opens. You'll be our first call." And my former colleague Joel Chaushu left the Suburban to work with the Canadian Jewish News, and voila, I'm back at the Suburban. Been
Wow.
over a
Are you
year.
having fun? Having fun?
I love the gig. I made it clear when they hired me, um, by way of selling myself short. I said to them at the time, "I'm not a reporter. I'm not a journalist. I'm a writer." And they said, "That's why we want you." But the job has just, by necessity, turned me into a reporter, turned me into a journalist, and
And,
I am having fun. The people I've met, whether they be members of the community that have a story to tell, whether they be borough mayors or city mayors, just fantastic people. And so, yeah, it's been an absolute trip. And I'm learning so much.
and speaking of learning so much, you spent Sunday evening with about 10,000 doctors, I think, right? At the
Yeah.
Bell?
Oh, you're reporting on that, were you?
Well,
Okay.
it's funny who you should ask. I heard somebody today on the radio say 12,000, but when I was there, the guy who was hosting, and I don't know who he was, but he was awesome. The guy who was hosting the thing said 13,000. And I didn't know about this event until the last minute. So I just kind of showed up. I wasn't on a list, but the media person said, "No problem, come on in." And because initially, when I got to the Bell Center, there was kind of a small group, a small ragtaggle group outside. They were in the process of writing their own signs with Sharpies on bristle board. And they were mostly, patients, angry patients. There might have been one or two doctors outside. And I found out that everything was happening inside. So I was, escorted inside to the Bell Center where the concerts and the hockey games are, and it was packed. And this was a huge, big, organized deal with big screens all over the place, cameras toward the back that were, broadcasting this all on the big screens. I'm surprised it wasn't broadcast live on social media. Um, and it was so this was a big professional media event, and there was a band playing. The band was called Le Doc Show. Every member of the band was a doctor,
Wow.
and so yeah, it was quite something.
Didn't I see someone dressed in a sort of a UP style costume that was supposed to be, was that an effigy, supposed to be Dubé, the minister?
No, it was
No?
just a mascot who was
Okay.
walking through and welcoming children, and then of course doing the usual this type of stuff that mascots do.
Okay, right.
You know,
Oh,
and
all right. So there was entertainment for the. Wow. If
yeah.
this situation weren't as dire as it is, this would be funny.
Well,
Yeah.
this you would what amazed me is it was all four of the doctors' federations, the specialists, les omnipraticiens, general practitioners, residents, and of course the Federation of Medical Students. And every federation had representatives who went up to speak. And I'd never seen this before because the majority of the audience were medical professionals, so they knew all of these spokespeople. And as they were introduced and came up onto the stage, the crowd went nuts. It was either like they were rock stars, or it was kind of like 1995 and the PQ had lost the referendum, but every time, and even when René Lévesque lost the referendum, he couldn't speak because the crowd was just going nuts. And this is what was going on here. These are people who know these spokespeople, and they are heroes to them. One woman I didn't know of is she's part of the Federation of General Practitioners of the Lanaudière region, Lynn Couture, Dr. Lynn Couture. She had to wait until the applause and cheers died down to speak. It was incredible.
Wow. Now, do you editorialize here, or are you just reporting in a
I
situation like this one?
Yeah, I just do reporting.
Okay.
Because we are reporters. We have to be very careful about that because sometimes you're writing and you can't help it. Some sort of an opinion slips in, but you do the proofreading, you take it out. Mistakes happen sometimes, as they do in journalism, and you end up. We did have prior to the holidays, we have what's called an FYI edition, which is more community stories and less hard news. And for that, I was asked to write an editorial. Like the boss said, you can even write an editorial. So at the time, I wrote about the Namur Hippodrome site.
Okay, so I'll put you on the spot here. Where do you think this is all going to end now, based on what you've seen and heard? Back to the doctors.
With the doctors.
Yeah.
I have no idea where it's going to end. I have no idea how far the doctors intend to take this. Again, I heard someone on the radio this morning being a little bit flippant about it and a little bit cynical. Well, because, we're up to at least 300 doctors that have already started applying elsewhere, either in Ontario or in New Brunswick. And that's a big number.
Yep.
Because you might hear one or two doctors, well, I'm out of here. My brother did that in the 90s. That's why he's in the US now. But we're talking over 300 doctors probably at this point. And this guy I was listening to on the radio, I can't remember who it was saying, well, it's kind of like Americans, Trump gets elected and so, well, we're leaving or going to Canada. Blah, blah, blah. I think he's wrong about that. I think that at some point, and I think that, in today's news, today is November the 11th. Yesterday, Premier Legault was super dismissive about the event. He went, oh, it's fun to go to the Bell Center, watch videos and get all riled up. I don't think he understands that 13,000 medical professionals and their families and their supporters and their patients have, in one fell swoop, in the time that they tabled Bill 2, given up on the CAC. Yeah. And so I don't know how far the doctors are willing to go, if they are indeed willing to just up and leave the province. I can tell you that I know someone who asked me not to mention his name, but a doctor from here who works in Hawkesbury, and they said that they have already received several applications. I'm hoping that he's true to his word when he says, I want them to come back to the negotiating table. But that's a hard pill to swallow from someone who invoked closure to pass this bill. Invoking closure is the political equivalent of a father going, discussion over.
Yeah. And we're heading that way with the transit situation too. But anyway, all right, Era, I'm sorry, I'm taking up your time here. Go ahead.
No, not at all. Actually, I wanted to talk to Dan. Dan was the host of CJAD's trivia show for, I believe, over 20 years. Yeah. And he wrote that show. And I'm going, how do you write comedy trivia? But not only that, but as a stand-up comedian, when you're doing comedy on the radio and in person, the difference is absolutely huge. You were very funny on the show because you were the host, but I've seen you on stage, and I've always thought, I tried stand-up comedy a couple of times, and there's nothing like failing before 2,000 people to really make you decide maybe that's not exactly for you. But for you as a comedian, as a host, what is the most important thing to keep people engaged when you're using humor?
I have no idea. I honestly don't.
Excellent.
Well, because the reason I say that is because I could be wrong, but from my point of view, when I was still doing comedy, and it was the same, on the trivia show, you want to be entertaining, you want to be engaging. You don't know if what you're doing and saying is going to be that. But, you spend your time, because the way jokes work is it pops into your head, and either it's funny or it isn't. And you throw it out there, and people are going to laugh or they're not going to laugh. Now, as a stand-up comedian, you have to do more than that. It pops into your head, you write it down. You say, okay, well, that's funny on its own, but it has to be funnier. So you work on writing, you work on honing the joke, honing your craft and practicing. And then you get up on stage and you hope that what you're about to say to this room full of people is going to hit somewhere, somehow. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But what the best comedians do is, if it doesn't hit, but you still believe in the joke, you take it home, you say, okay, this didn't work. Let's figure out why. And you're either going to drop it or you're going to say, no, I understand why they didn't laugh. I'm going to say it this way. I'm going to add a word that has the C sound in it. For some reason, that's funny. I don't know. But I haven't done comedy in a long time.
Yeah, the word hat is funny too,
Yeah, I don't know
unfortunately. Yeah,
why.
right. Yeah. Okay. No, I know you as a writer, a poet as well. Are you still writing poetry?
Not as often as I used to. In fact, I haven't written a poem in a while. But because I went through a period where they were just flying out of my head, they were just coming out, and it was awesome. And then I went through a period where I kind of had to force it, and that's part of the creative process. No matter what you do, there are people who talk about writer's block, and some of the best creators, whether they be writers, filmmakers, musicians, etc., they say writer's block isn't a thing. If you say you have writer's block, you're simply not doing the work. And
Yeah, that's who was it? Peter Zosky who said, I hate to write, but I love having written, right?
yeah. Well, Robertson Davies said that about readers. He said people would prefer to already have read a book rather than
Yeah,
to be reading it. So yeah, very
right.
similar.
Okay, the one part I have missed over the years is the musician, Dan Laxer. Where did
Yes.
that come from? When
I,
did that come to the surface?
well, that was always there. I've been playing, I started playing guitar when I was 12. So
Okay,
music has always been a huge part of
I
my
can
life.
see a ukulele in your desk there, I think. Is that a
That's
ukulele, or is that
it
something
is
that
a
you use to
ukulele.
hit people with? Oh, okay.
Well, I wouldn't hit people with that one because it belongs to my wife, and if I
Okay.
break it,
All
I'm in
right.
Yeah.
trouble. My wife
Good.
plays the ukulele,
Yeah.
and we both play harmonica. So when she moved here, I bought her that ukulele because she left hers in Russia. What you see behind me is my wife's dresser, and my teddy bear on the nightstand.
Okay. Now, wait a minute now. You dropped a word there. We have to go back to
Yeah.
Russia. Yeah. You
This
got
How
to
is
tell
such
how
us
a
you
about
have,
romantic
You got
story,
to
man. It's like a movie.
Well, this
right?
is a whole thing here. This you got to tell us about that.
So, um, some years ago, whoops, what did I do here? Um,
We
some
got you.
years,
Still there.
I'm just doing something here that I don't know how to. There we go. Some years ago, I started playing harmonica. Now, I've always had a harmonica in my house, somewhere in a drawer, and every once in a while, I would fiddle around with it. And I started singing with the NDG Music School. This is a really long story. A buddy of mine who has a music school called the NDG Music School, and he has students, but he also brings in friends of his as volunteers to fill out a band of musicians. So you might see a bunch of kids with a grown up playing bass or drums or maybe singing. And I started singing with them some years ago. And the guy who runs the school asked me one day, "Do you play harmonica?" And I said, "Yeah, a bit." And he said, "We should play some blues." And I said, "Sure, sounds like fun." And he said, "We should play Born in Chicago by Paul Butterfield." And I went, "Are you effing crazy? I don't know how to play that." And then I said, "Wait a minute, maybe I can learn." And I started learning that one song, and that set me off into just exploring blues harmonica to the hilt. And then one day, just before COVID hit, I joined a Facebook group. There was a harmonica teacher in Scotland, and he started this thing called the 28-day challenge. It was the 28 days for the month of February. You take something you're having trouble with, practice it solidly for 5 minutes every single day for 28 days, and post your progress on this Facebook page with videos. And that's what we were all doing. There was me, there were people from parts of Canada, the United States, India, Ukraine, Russia. So I'd be scrolling, looking at all these videos, scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and went, "Oh, what do I see?" This very young, beautiful woman. Sorry, I should say this young, very beautiful woman in Russia playing this 75-year-old, or however old the blues is, American musical style. What is going on here? And I was instantly smitten. Thankfully, so was she. We became friends. We would chat privately. And one thing led to another. And she said, "I would love to meet you in person. Do you want to meet somewhere halfway?" And I say, "Sure." And she says, "How about Turkey?" And I say, "Sure," not even thinking that Turkey's not halfway for me. But so yeah, we got together because the way Canadians and Americans go to Florida or Cuba, Russians go to Turkey.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so we met in Turkey. We went to Izmir, which is a beautiful and historically legendary place in Turkey. I knew that she wanted to move here. So what we did in Turkey was we hopped a plane to Georgia, which is like going to Vegas in the Caucasus, got married, and then went back to Turkey to have our honeymoon. And then I started the process of sponsoring her so she could move here. And what are we now? November. We're coming up on 2 years since
Wow.
her stepdaughter moved
Wow.
here.
My goodness. Well, Mazel Tov.
Thank you.
Outstanding. Interesting
And
story.
last July, not this past July, 2 Julys ago, I went to Russia to meet her family. That was a blast.
Wow, that must have been quite something.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, well, my little brain is swirling with all manner of discussions that must have taken place since then, and other things going on in the world too. So, her parents are her folks okay? Everybody's okay back home?
Yeah, they live in a city called Chelyabinsk, which is kind of like Midwest or Mideast. It's hard to tell because Russia's gigantic.
Huge.
But their city is just north of the border, just north of Kazakhstan. And so Moscow and St. Petersburg are both, for her, it's like me going to British Columbia.
Right. Okay. Wow. Interesting. Wow, what an adventure.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I love the fact that you're both musicians, and she's also an absolutely fascinating woman. She was over here this weekend with her daughter, Yvan, because I have clothing from the 50s, and she is a 50s wardrobe aficionado. She's completely into it. So I actually gave
40s,
her a bunch of
50s
stuff
well.
from the 50s that I had from my mom, including the jacket that my mom wore when she was pregnant with me. And it was really nice to be able to give her all this beautiful 50s couture to someone who truly appreciated that. But I'm fascinated by a young person who is such an old soul.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what I learned about that jacket, by the way, is it's not strictly a maternity jacket, but it was made in such a way where, a pregnant woman would have said, hey, I'll wear that. It'll fit perfectly fine. And I forget what the jacket is called, but Yana does this thing. AI does it. Is she'll take a picture and post it to, let's say, ChatGPT. And ChatGPT will go, oh, yeah, of course, I know what that is. That's from 19 blah, blah, blah. And it was made in, like, ChatGPT knows all.
So what did they tell you about the jacket? Because I have no idea.
Oh, I don't remember. She just she likes the way that when you twirl, it kind of
twirls with you.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you speak any Russian?
I've started learning Russian. No, да, я говорю чуть-чуть по-русски. Я делаю uroki lessons. I met up online with a teacher in Ukraine, but
La plume de ma tante est sur la table.
What?
La plume de ma tante est sur la table.
Exactly.
Oui.
And
Quelle sorte de légumes avez-vous? Yeah.
Or we can go to Monty Python. My pencil box is blue.
Yes,
or
right.
what's the one when it's a fake Hungarian English dictionary? May I rub your buttocks?
That's right. Oh, yes, right. Yeah, that's Python too, I think, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
so we're at that stage now after 22
Yes, we
minutes.
are.
All right, good. Okay. Wow. So you do you work your own hours? Then back to the Suburban, because I have another key word that came into my little brain now. Back to reporting for a second.
Yeah.
Do you work from? Of course, you don't work necessarily from home. You're out picking up things and visiting people to write pieces and things like that. But you get to work from home most of the time, I presume. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This is where I do the writing. The offices of the Suburban. I mean, it's not just the Suburban. I don't know of any journalist that has to go into the newsroom anymore. But the offices are in Saint Laurent on the Trans-Canada Highway, and so it makes more sense because the way the territories are split up, I cover. I live in Montreal West, but my colleague Joel Goldenberg covers Montreal West. I'll cover NDG Côte-Neige, the Center City, Westmount, TMR, et cetera. And so
you mentioned AI.
Yeah.
How does this play into what you do now? Are you seeing this kind of surface in the work you do?
In the work that I do, thankfully, no, not yet. It does worry me, not necessarily in terms of the Suburban, but just in the grand scheme of things, given that AI is so easy. And if you scroll Facebook today, you're going to go, wow, it's such a cute video of a snoring lion. It's not a snoring lion. It's completely AI generated. And it's so sophisticated that it's really difficult to tell. And it happened like this, if you, maybe a year ago, I got my wife this fantastic coffee mug that has like a 1950s, it's sort of a drawing of a 1950s woman sitting on a beach. And it's perfect. It's exactly the type of coffee mug she would want. And one day she looked at it and said, look at that. She has 6 fingers, which means it wasn't done by a human artist. It was done by AI. And AI doesn't always get it right. But the problem with AI is it learns. So we are moving very quickly to a point where we're going to be watching the news and your newscaster is not going to be a human being.
Yeah, and of course there are already sites up and running now in English and in French that are all AI generated. News sites in English and in French that people are consulting on a daily basis now, not knowing that that photograph of the guy Don Laxing is not not a real person. You're laughing, but they at least one of the French language sites appropriated somebody's semi-likeness. They sort of changed the name a little bit, and this person, this photograph of a person who does not exist is on their website, ostensibly reporting on stuff. So it's it's, as you say, it is concerning. Mm.
Absolutely. And people think that, I've turned into a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, but I don't think I have. I mean, if you consider, the George Orwell novel 1984, the character Big Brother was a face on a big screen, but he didn't actually exist. And I believe that we will soon be voting for political leaders who don't exist, who will be on a screen answering reporters' questions and doing political speeches and garnering support among the electorate. And the electorate will have no idea that the person they've just elected to run the country doesn't actually exist.
It makes me think a little bit of Max Headroom as well. I don't know, Dan, if you remember that series. Yes.
Matt Frewer. Matt Frewer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He was a computer-generated character, and the world was run by corporations, big tech corporations, and as it turns out, fairly prescient.
Yes. How sweet of you to say, I wonder if you're old enough to remember Matt Frewer. Yeah. But thank you, dear. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Do you remember they turned that into a TV series for a very short while?
Yes, they did. It was one of my favorites.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was always a sci-fi geek, so,
Wow, okay. So do you perform in public, or do you just perform with your spouse at home quietly when it comes to music, back to music?
Well, I perform in public when I sing with the NDG Music School.
Are you still singing with those folks? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do a Christmas show, and then they do a graduation show. And they also do Porch Fest. And, these things
Porch Fest.
Yes. What's that, Dan?
Qu'est-ce que c'est ça?
So it started in NDG, and now there are several communities that have a Porch Fest where musicians register. And so the people who organize it have a schedule. And these musicians, they could be solo artists, they could be duos, they could be bands. They play literally on their front porch throughout NDG. So there's a schedule. It might be a group playing, let's say, at noon outside an ice cream shop, and then another one an hour later on their front porch. Generally, this is up your alley, Era. Generally, the NDG Music School plays in the driveway behind Le Sentier.
Yes.
On Monkland and Oxford.
Briefly, Yvan, Le Sentier is a group that I did a fundraising event for earlier this year. It's called Le Sentier the Trail, and it's a veteran support group. They have 4 points of service to help veterans who are trying to re-enter everyday life after having incredibly extreme and difficult experiences. Today being Remembrance Day. People somehow still think about World War II, but they don't think about those who served in the Balkans or Afghanistan or Haiti or Rwanda. So yes, they have aside from their residence in Dorval, which is like a second step shelter, They have 3 other points of service to help veterans, and Dan has played there. It's a music center where they can go and get music therapy and learn how to play different instruments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know that until I was on a break and I sort of went into the basement. There's a little lounge and all these guitars hanging on the walls. It's a great idea. Yeah. And
Music therapy. Wow.
Yeah.
Good for them.
And we do the Porch Fest. We do a Christmas show. The Christmas show and the graduation show are always at the Wheel Club. We used to perform at the Legion and NDG, but they moved to the Wheel Club. So it's a blast because basically I'm on stage with in the band that I sing for. It's people my age. There's 3 guitar players, and the drummer and bass player are part of the school, so they're teachers, and they showcase I don't know how many bands over a period of a couple of hours in a show of all ages, and it's a fantastic school because they do give private music lessons, but they also will put you with others your age and of your musical liking in a band, and it's fantastic.
Wow. Yeah. Excellent. Is there a website? There must be a website.
There is. I think it's ndgmusicschool.com.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So life is full. Life is good. Is it?
Yes, I have to say yes. There's no reason for me to say no, it isn't, because yes, it is. I've got...
That's terrific.
Yeah.
All right. So now we can't get to the whole list that Eramelinda Boquer has produced for today, but there must be something in your craw somewhere. So do we have any doléances this morning? Anything that you need to get off your chest?
Anything that I need to get off? Well, there are so many things going on.
Yeah.
Not the least.
Well, we talked about the doctors, and thanks for giving us the roundup on that, because I saw the piece on TV the other day, but it certainly didn't do justice to the way you described it. But
yeah.
Wow.
Well, it's hard to, because a newscast, what a news story is 3 to 5 minutes long, and you don't necessarily have enough time to do it justice. But I gave you my personal reaction to it. It was which I wrote about it in the Suburban, and you don't really have my personal reaction to it in the article.
Right.
I also interviewed a doctor, and I wrote about her in the Suburban, who was one of those, because initially, the government said, we will penalize you not only if you try and leave here, but we will penalize you if you speak out against this law. And the doctors went,
that's
not gonna happen. So
that's Trumpian, is what that is.
Absolutely. So this doctor took to her social media and did a rant. And there are doctors all over who are not keeping quiet about this. There's that. I went off. Like I say, today it's Tuesday, November the 11th when we're recording this, and I know that your power was out this morning, Yvan.
Yep.
And
briefly, but it was. Yeah.
Well, when I heard that across the province there were over 400,000 people without power.
It peaked at 400 or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. In Montreal on 40. And I thought, okay, well, the ice storm was 1998. That's nearly 30 years ago. Have we not figured this out between then and now?
Yeah, that's of course the weather patterns have changed since then, but the problem is it's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse, and Era and I were talking about that in previous weeks too. It's going to be a rough winter because of the way things are developing. And my goodness, when I moved here in 1981, I had experienced one power outage in my life, and that was the big 1965 break where half of the Northeast and half of Ontario and northern New York went out. The big
was
New
that
York.
65 or 85?
I think it was 60. No. It was 65 or 66.
Okay.
It's a weather warning.
I was born. Sorry.
What's the weather warning?
There's a second typhoon about to hit somewhere. So it's going to be one of those years. Just quickly, and when I moved here in 81, I started seeing weekly outages, right? So every time there was freezing rain, I knew the power was going to go out.
Yeah.
And that's been the story for 40 years now. And unfortunately, the Hydro-Quebec neighborhood grid has been neglected for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And they can't even catch up now because they're spending most of their time cutting down branches and trees because the foliage is growing more rapidly than it used to. So they're trying to keep up with that, and they're just patching systems that are falling apart. That, and where I am now on the North Shore, is growing so rapidly. People are leaving the island. They're coming up this way. They can't keep up. They can't put wires on the poles fast enough.
Yeah.
So it's going to be quite a challenge. You had better buy some batteries now because we're in for it, I think, this winter.
Yeah, you may be right. And, there are some people who argue, well, they've got to get the wires underground, but I don't know if that's feasible because
No, it's just
how many
too
billions would
expensive.
that cost?
And if a 790 kV line goes down between here and James Bay or whatever, we're not any further ahead anyway. So
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other issue too, is because that's concerned me greatly, and I hate to be Cassandra, is also too with the increase of forest fires, and that is going to affect us very much too.
Yep.
I know now that I spend a lot of my days going to the dollar store to buy more candles and more batteries. That's not a plug for a dollar store because they're no longer the dollar store; they're like $3.50 store. Small complaint there. But I know, Dan, where you live in NBG, power outages are a regular occurrence.
It not as much as elsewhere. We like, for example, I drove Yana to work this morning. Here in Montreal West, it's totally fine. And I drive along Côte Saint-Luc Road. All of a sudden, probably after Grand Boulevard, all of the traffic lights are out until we got closer to Dufferin, I guess, and then all of a sudden they were all back on again. I haven't had a lot of power outages here, and we live in a world where everybody has charged cell phones and charged laptops, so it's not nearly as fun as it was when I was a kid, lighting candles and whatever. But still, I mean, you're shaking your head.
Well, no, we can beat up on hydro all we want. The guys on the crews out there are doing their best to get things back up together again. It's just it's a systematic, system-based problem that's been there for a long, long time. Yeah. So God, watching Legault getting into his new economic plan now too, and wanting to invest here and there, and oh my.
Well, I mean, you ask if there's anything that's stuck in my craw.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's close on that one then, please, Dan. Go ahead.
Well, there are so many, but I was thinking about Legault and the CAC and what they've been doing with health and education and other files, and I can't help thinking that, it's like when an invading force realizes they're about to lose the war. So before they turn tail and go home, they blow everything up and kill everything in their path. They say, we're losing, just blow everything up and then come home.
Yeah.
And I feel that he probably realizes at some point, somewhere, we messed up. We are done for. So let's just take it all down before we go. And
of course, it should be said that we're living next to an elephant with a full diaper now too, right? It's getting, that diaper is exploding as we're speaking too. But they're grasping at straws now. They're circling the drain, and I'm not sure if the alternative is going to be any better the way we're looking at it now.
I feel like this is the point where we should start playing Monty Python's Always Look on the Bright Side of Life.
Yeah, absolutely. But
anyway.
The thing about that is that when you talk about the healthcare system, I can't blame simply the CAC, and I won't say it's because separatist governments spend more on separatism and language, because we've had this issue even when there have been liberal governments.
Yes.
And it wasn't different just because a health minister might have been a physician, him or herself. These problems have been across the, like I say, my brother left in the 90s, and I believe that he left under a liberal government. And the thing then was the same thing as now. They say, we need doctors in the regions. Okay, fine, that's great. How can we help? Well, we need you to go out to the regions maybe for 3 or 5 years. Great. But if you don't, we're going to dock you pay.
Yeah.
How about you say, please do this, and we will make it worth your while. We will incentivize rather than do this or you're docked.
Yeah, I've had this discussion with people, for example, I mean, bringing sovereignty and all of this into it that you mentioned earlier. Why are you no? And I say, I'm no because nobody here can build highways properly. Nobody can run a health system properly. Nobody has figured it out so far. So what makes you special kind of thing, you know?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I don't know what's coming. However, let's conclude on this. Everyone is well.
Conclude. I'm having fun here.
Era has cleaned her house, although that's just a claim. We have no way of proving that.
No. I told him at the beginning of the show, and I think I spoke to you, Dan. I said, "Oh no, I'm wearing a baseball cap, and I need to wash my hair and put makeup on." So while this space is just perfectly clean, the rest of the place looks like a tornado hit it.
Well, that's okay.
Looks nice and clean.
Clothing.
Yeah. That's it's called AI. All right, guys. Happy holidays, Dan. All the best.
Thank you very much. The same to both of you.
Are you running off anywhere for the holidays? Are you going skiing or anything like that? Or no?
God, no. I can't afford vacations.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh. That's pretty much the story for everyone.
Yeah. Staycation. We'll celebrate. We'll do Hanukkah. We'll do what the Russians called Novi God.
Novi God.
New Year's. It's
New
actually,
Year's.
We say Russian, but it's more of a Soviet thing, because they had outlawed at some point in their history their religion. So Christmas became New Year's, Novi God. And when you bring a pine tree into your house, it's not a Christmas tree, it's a New Year's tree or a yolka.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, how nice to have the melding of cultures there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. This has been fun.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. That was great fun. Dan, you're in fine fettle today, my friend.
Thank you.
That was so much fun.
Yes, absolutely.
So I will post this later on today. I'm just going to do a quick fade there once we get you in. And
yeah, and you might want to kill a bit of the stuff that you started with, unless you just think that's funny.
Which stuff?
What?
Well, no, I never realized. He turns on and he's recording. Now, unfortunately, I've never shown up in my bra or anything like that. But I'm caballing and complaining and
I'm not. No, I wouldn't do that. The bra part I would leave in, but we haven't seen that yet. I have to go. All right, thanks, Dan.
Guys.
Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.